Today's conversation is not about crash diets or punishing workouts. It's not about becoming who you were at 25, that's for sure. It's about what happens when the old blueprint no longer fits. My guest today is Heike Yates. She's a midlife fitness expert, author of Pursue Your Spark, as you can see from her book there, and the creator of the Spark Framework. But what I love about her story is that she rebuilt her life through movement during seasons when everything felt uncertain for her. She was a single mom with limited money and made shifts in her life. Fitness for her wasn't about aesthetics, it became her anchor. And I think a lot of women need that reminder right now. So if you've been feeling stuck between knowing what matters and actually following through, this conversation is for you. Sometimes your body forces an exit before your mind is ready. Did you ever have a moment when your body said, okay, this right here, we're done with this, we're not doing it anymore?
When I was really in my beginning stages of teaching fitness classes and becoming really involved with fitness, I ended up taking on way more than I wanted to. And my justification was always, I'm a single mom. I need more money. So let's keep taking on more. Let's teach more classes and let's take on more personal training clients. And then I got into working with Resistable and I invented Pilates on the Resistable. And that added even more load so that at the end, I was working literally 7 days a week all the time. And it was just, oh my God. I didn't realize it until I felt so exhausted. I would just sit down in the kitchen and literally started to cry. I'm not a crier. So when I sit down and cry, something has to be wrong.
Yeah.
And when you feel so exhausted, like you just said, you can't spend time with your kids because you're just so exhausted from trying to make ends meet. They suffer too, and you keep, at least I kept justifying it was for the good for all of us.
You left a 9 to 5 and rebuilt yourself. Was that a scary feeling or freeing or both? Were you afraid of losing anything?
Not at first. It sounded so glorious to have a child, stay home as a stay-home mom, and be the mom and take care of your child. And in my mind, I was like the superhuman mom that could conquer all the diapers and all the messes in the kitchen and losing all her connections to her friends because my friends at that point were the people at the embassy. And I said, good riddance. I'm moving on. Thank God. But then I was really lonely when I didn't have other people that I knew that I could talk about other things than baby stuff. I mean, I made my new friends through my children, or this one, my son. But it was not the same because we ended up always talking about the kids and what they needed and what was going on. But what's really noticeable, Miriam, was that I didn't realize that I don't have my own money. I was dependent on my husband's income. And I felt like a little child asking for pocket money every time I needed money. I didn't have a air quote allowance for groceries. He just said, just ask me when you need money. And I know that money was really tight at times. So I didn't ask, but I didn't have that feeling of, but that's what I had before. I have my own money. I can take myself out. Or I can buy myself a new pair of shoes if I wanted to. And that was something I had not thought about when this happened.
So at that point, did you feel like you were failing as a woman or even as a mom?
I didn't feel like I was failing. I felt I was lost. I felt that where do I belong now? I'm not really comfortable in my new lonely role as a mom doing diapers and kids feedings, but I also had left the 9 to 5, my corporate job behind, and I had no friends. My husband was very supportive, but what I really missed was the freedom to make my own choices.
Really an identity shift also that you had to embody, thinking that, I'm stuck in this mom role when there is more out there and you can do something different.
Yep. But it's scary to think that way because society makes you believe, as at least back then, that a woman should stay home, and if you dare to get daycare, but don't get a nanny. I mean, at least in my income bracket. Um, so it was all about the caregiver instinct in the woman that was called upon, and I did not like that at all.
So let's talk about that season where that was a transition for you and that it used to work and then it wasn't working anymore. What did you switch at that point?
It was really more making a decision to choose something that would be good for me. And it started with that I had taken fitness classes, and that's how I got into fitness. That I started taking fitness classes, and were looking for teachers. And they said, "Well, you move so well in class. Do you want to be a teacher?" And I said, "Not in a million years do I want to hop around in front of you teaching exercise." And I went home to my then husband and I told him, and he said, "Oh, that'd be great. You're a people person. Why don't you go out and start teaching those classes?" And it took me a minute to really say yes to this, aside from that I didn't want to be on display and everybody following me, but to really choose me and what I wanted, which was getting out of the mommy role, moving on into a new business life for me. And I didn't know it was going to be a business eventually, but that it was the catalyst to something bigger than I would ever have thought of.
A lot of us are in high achieving women where we're doing 9 to 5 jobs, we're being a mom, we're doing all these things, running a household, but yet when it comes to doing something for ourselves,
Mm.
we don't think that we can handle it or we don't go for it. Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of it comes from the times that we have been primed by our mothers, grandmothers, and society that we should be grateful for what is handed to us. And we shouldn't, air quotes again, shouldn't ask for more, that we should be happy. And yes, life is good and everything is great. And who are you to want more? I think it comes from those old roles that continue to, at some point, actually haunt us women to the day where we're expected to take care of ourselves, take care of our family, take care of the grandkids, and then our own parents as well. And we're in that sandwich situation of where we just have no breathing room for ourselves and we're not allowed to break free.
Do you think moving into those roles is more discipline or is it courage? A little bit of both. What do you think?
Moving into the roles of the caregiver or the sandwich
Into the
person.
roles of doing something for yourself and pursuing something outside of what society is telling you, you got to stay in this box.
It takes a lot of courage and curiosity. I think curiosity is a big part of how we can move forward, how we can break out of those roles, even if just for a little bit. You can still take care of the grandkids. You can still, take care of your aging parents, but that you carve out time and space for you takes courage and definitely curiosity. Because if you're not curious of what's on the other side, you may be just happy the way it is. But I think from when I work with my clients, most of them are not.
They're not curious.
They're not happy when they don't break out, when they don't break
Mhm.
those molds, when they stay quiet, when they say, and I just talked about this just recently, when they're saying, "I'm fine, everything's fine," and deep down you're not. You know they want
Mhm.
something else. And it doesn't mean you leave everything else behind, but something has to change in your life. And that desire comes from that curiosity. What is on the other side?
When we're in our 20s, we feel so explorative and we can just do anything. We have no fear. Why do you think it's so difficult in midlife? Why do we still feel so trapped and allow ourselves to be stuck like that?
We've learned lessons, and those lessons shape us. And some of the lessons may not be beneficial to what we need or want to do, not need, but want to do. And we become more cautious because we've learned that actions have consequences. And sometimes we may not like those consequences. When you're 20, you don't care. You bounce back like a little ball and you're like, I'll get over this, not a big deal. But when you're 50 or I'm going to be 65 this year, you think about what's happening if what happens if I take this step? How is it going to impact me? But most of all, I feel a lot of women think more how their actions affect the people around them.
I know you talk about self-trust, and when it comes to our bodies, especially, as we get older, we're always breaking that trust with ourselves, about diets or self-improvement. How do we get to the point where we trust ourselves again so that we can improve our bodies?
I believe that we need to step away from everything. I need to literally get away from all the noise, get away from all the social media that tells us how we should look, how we should feel, how we should dress, what we should say, what color our hair should be, and step away from all that noise and say, all right, what do I want? Get rid of the noise and start thinking and start sitting quiet to actually hear yourself think, to hear yourself uh, feel what it is that you want to experience. And with that, it's a great start to break out of those molds, to get away from from the people, yeah, let's say people that
The
tell
noise.
us, yeah, yeah, that tell us how we should be, how we should be behaving. And because if we don't go inward and if we don't go quiet, we don't hear ourselves. We don't hear our message.
And what do women get wrong at this stage when it comes to that, or about motivation in general?
You never do anything wrong or get anything wrong because sometimes you just don't know better.
Mhm.
Sometimes you feel that this is how it is because that's what you always heard. So I always feel like you never do the wrong exercise, you never eat the wrong foods. You don't do anything wrong. You make choices that affect what happens to you. And the choices really shape what's happening next. And you could argue, oh, you could make a bad choice. I always believe that we don't make there's no good or bad choices. It's just something that we chose. Whether it turns out positive or negative is a different story, but it's never wrong. It is always something we believe at the moment is something that that's what I want. This is what I'm going to do. And whatever unfolds afterwards is something that we really then need to look at with kindness and grace and openness to say, all right, I made this choice, but it's okay. I can now make a different choice. So you never choose wrong.
I know for me, I had to change the way I ate because my body was at some point literally shutting down. And so, because of that, it was so dramatic for me that it forced me to make a change. So, for a woman who hasn't had that type of dramatic wake up call, how does she shift into that? Because I want to still go into that motivation lane. How do you find that? Okay, now I'm this person who exercises regularly. When you want to feel that way, you want to do that, but how do you get to that mindset?
Baby steps. What is the smallest thing you can do? And when you used your example with your diet, you had a dramatic shift that you needed to, from what I'm hearing, take action. Otherwise, you wouldn't be well. Most of us don't have these dramatic moments, but we have a moment where we're not happy with how things are turning out. We're not happy with the weight we have. We're not happy with the way we look and we feel. And it comes down to, in my mind, to go to the smallest denominator of where you can say, yes, I can make a change. It's not dramatic. I don't have to have willpower. I don't have to have some grandiose idea of what's going to happen next. And that small bit will start your momentum. It will start letting you see that you are capable, because too many of us put too much on our plate and think, yeah, I can do this. And then you crash and burn.
It's funny that you say that because a lot of women think, okay, I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to
Yep.
start all over. And next week I'm gonna have all the grocery list items and I'm going to, do this. I'm going to have the workout outfit. But you're saying it doesn't have to be that way. You just start small, that day, just eliminate what? Like what do you do to start small?
I think let's shall we use diet as an example? We can,
Sure.
so if you think about that, you want to feel healthier, you feel want to feel stronger. One of the things that I always talk about is eat protein with every meal. Now, this will be a simple step. You could eat a yogurt, you eat some chicken, you eat some egg, you eat some beans, depending on what your diet is like. But you can start implementing this new strategy without overhauling your whole meal plan, your whole week's planning for whatever the meals you need, or drink a protein shake. All you have to think about is, where's my protein coming from next? Does this meal have protein? If you're missing it, it's okay because it's a new habit that you're starting to adapt. And then slowly but surely, you will be looking for where is the protein. And I just recently was at a what's called the music salon, and one of my friends was there, and she walks around with her plate. And usually, these private music salons at people's homes have a buffet and some wine, and everybody brings food. And she walked around and she said, Heike, where's the protein? And I said, I taught you well. Look for the
Yeah.
protein before anything
Mhm.
else.
Hmm. And
And
does it fill
one,
you up so that you don't want the carbs, or how does that work?
it has two things. Number one, it fills you up more and it gives you more energy because it's more nutrient dense. Would you want carbs too? Yes, you want quick energy. You want more of the energy, but protein is also takes longer to digest. That's why we're not hungry as fast as when you're, for instance, eating a bowl of vegetables. You will be, it will be much faster digested, and that makes us want more food. So protein helps us stay longer full, keeps also because of the enzymes in protein, and we just use it as an overall umbrella. It could be fish and chicken and beans and tofu. Keeps us full longer and gives us more energy because of what is in protein and in
Mm.
general. And so that's a small thing you can start, and that starts your momentum. So now you're looking for the protein. And you, after maybe a couple, 3 or 4 weeks, you go, I have protein with every meal. So what else can I change? And then once you start creating a new habit, you start to look at the habits that surround you that no longer serve you, that you feel, I do not need this. And I have a great story. One of my clients came to me for weight loss. And she said, I want to be stronger and I want to lose weight. But she never asked me about diet plans or nutrition advice, nothing ever. She just wanted to work out. And because in Pilates, we focus a lot of awareness, we're paying attention, we're focused on our breathing and our alignment. She later told me, she came in one day and she said, what do you think? And I'm looking at her, I'm like, I don't know, what should I think? And she said, I lost 20 pounds. And I said, oh, you did? I said, I don't look at you for weight loss. I look at you from the point of view of strength. And she says, you know what? That mindfulness that I experience in Pilates has translated into that when I watch TV with my husband at night, he always gets a bowl out of M&Ms, always. And I kept snacking with him. I don't want it. I don't need it. I just do it because he does it. And I realized that this was a habit that no longer served me. And I said, I'm going to stop eating those M&Ms. I work so hard in my training class and my homework that Heike gives me that I'm sabotaging myself with that habit that is no longer serving me. And I was just blown away about her success and the awareness that we create when we start one or shift one small item.
So let me pivot for a second. You were a single mom raising two kids. How old were they at the time?
Th- I said 3 and 7 or 4 and 8, something along those lines.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you were making $300 a month.
Yeah.
What did fitness give to you at that time emotionally?
Power. I have the power to choose the classes I wanted to. I had the power to make money, which tied into what I said earlier. I had no money, and the power to be somebody outside of my role as a mother and then ex-wife, but wife.
And we all want to feel powerful. That's important. We feel powerful at work. We feel powerful as being moms,
Mhm.
all these roles, but power within ourselves, that's powerful. And when
It
did you realize fitness wasn't about looking a certain way? It was more about your identity.
After I'd lost those 50 pounds that I had gained during my pregnancy, because that was the ultimate goal. I'm like, I have no idea how to lose the weight. I have no idea about how this whole fitness thing works out. So I can so relate to women that come to me and say, I didn't even know where to start. I didn't know where to start either. And it was just so amazing, so empowering. Once I got in shape, and I'd lost the weight. I was like, this is great. This does something not only for me. When I teach these classes, everybody's happy. Everybody comes to me and asks for advice. And that would be great. So, what else can I learn that I can teach them and also apply to my own body as an experiment, perhaps, or just over a lifetime? And that again was very empowering.
We have a lot of beliefs about what happens to our bodies in midlife. And we think that, okay, now we have this pooch that just won't go away. It's just, that's just what happens when you age. What do you embody about yourself that is living proof that certain things or one thing is wrong about what happens in midlife?
There's nothing wrong in midlife. I feel we're going through changes that are quite normal. We can't assume that our bodies will look the same as they did in our 20s and 30s as we go through perimenopause, menopause, and go all through those steps. But one thing we can embrace, and I am wholeheartedly around this, is exercise. If you're feeling unhappy with your body, if you're feeling unhappy the way you feel, even think about yourself. I want you to exercise, walking, whatever it is, but think about you're going through a phase in life. And this phase is going to change once you pass menopause, which I am. Your body changes again. Your breasts get saggy. And even though I went to the OBGYN today and she says, oh, you got some pretty perky breasts for your age.
That's good.
I'm like, yay, exercise is good for you. And but our bodies changes, our hormones change. I mean, I am to blame too. I have been talking about the poof and the pooch and the belly fat and all this stuff, but I stepped away from it a couple years ago because
Mm.
we don't need to demean ourselves more than necessary. Everybody is different. Some women look, in our minds, probably phenomenal because they don't develop the typical middle-aged body. But is
Mhm.
there something wrong with that? I don't think so. You want to be healthy, have a healthy weight, and be strong. And that's all and that's all that matters. Not what we're told we should look like at a certain age. And I understand we all want to look at our best. So get exercising, ladies.
Nowadays, I don't know if there is a typical way to look in midlife because I'm seeing women who are getting six packs, they look phenomenal. I always thought that, okay, after a certain age, it's just not possible. And I started developing like cuts in my abs, and I was like, whoa, where did this come from? Like I didn't believe it was possible. It's
And
amazing.
that's a great example, but you're putting in the work. And I think when we And I know as we get older, we're less gung ho, we're less motivated. Are tired more quickly. We're thinking, do I have to do this? At the moment, I'm thinking, should I train for another Ironman triathlon distance? And I'm like, no, no, it's way too much work. And it's also think about when you're thinking of I want to look a certain way. It's what do I want? What am I willing to do in order to reach that goal? And that will answer a lot of those questions of why do I look this way and why do I not look this way?
That's a good point because a lot of women have shame as they get
Mm.
older and they don't know how to move forward from that. And they think, oh, I wasted all these years and now it's just too late. So what do you say to them?
You're never too late. You never wasted. You may lag the physical experience, whether it's nutrition or exercise, but it's never too late. And you pick it up where you are. Just remember, as we get older, we develop all kinds of conditions like arthritis and God knows what else we're getting. So you have to honor where you are health wise in your journey and then go from there. And I've just been following one of my friends who's an influencer on Instagram, and she's my age, and she does all these pull ups. And I have to tell you, Miriam, I never was good at pull ups. I could do 3 pull ups at the best when I was a bodybuilder, and she's just cranking them out. And I'm going, more power to you. I don't need to do pull ups.
I love that. I love that you said that. And I've always wanted to be able to do pull-ups as I got older. I mean, I used to do them like crazy when I was younger, of course, but nowadays, I don't know, that's something that's on my list of accomplishments that I want to do. So tell me, what does pursuing your spark look like on a random Tuesday when you're tired?
Means giving yourself grace, rest and recover, see what's possible. Don't beat yourself up when you missed your workout and you didn't eat the perfect meal, which we don't have in my world. But in your mind, you may have the perfect meal idea and give yourself a break and rest and recover and don't beat yourself up. That's what pursue your spark on that Tuesday looks like. And that is okay because I feel we are so hard on ourselves. We keep beating ourselves up for nothing. We wouldn't do this to our friends. So that's what Tuesdays would look like for me.
So looking back on all that your whole journey, what has your experience taught you about yourself?
That it's okay to take a step back and rest, that I don't have to be number one podium all the time, that my family is my priority. And my family was also included in my fitness journey along the way, which I cherish forever and ever. And now I'm hoping my grandkids will do the same. And it taught me that it's okay to be you. You don't have to be somebody else or emulate somebody else. Be you, be real, and trust what you're doing is the right thing. Because you, as I said earlier, it can't be wrong. It just maybe we need to change course a little bit sometimes.
You are an amazing woman, very resilient and powerful. I love your story. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
It's my pleasure, Miriam. Absolutely.
Well, all of Heike's links and her contact information, if you want to have a journey for yourself, I'll put that in the description box below. Heike, thank you once again, and thank you to your family for sharing your time with us. I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If you've been feeling like your body changed before your mind was ready, I hope this conversation gave you relief. You're not unmotivated and you're not lazy. Maybe you just sit in a different season right now because that's something that we don't think about. We do go through different seasons, and you probably just need a different strategy, as we talked about today. And what I took from this conversation myself today is that midlife is not pushing harder, and it's about adjusting smarter. If your routines aren't working for you anymore, and your energy feels off and you feel tired, exhausted, if you even feel frustrated with yourself, maybe you should stop judging yourself too harshly. Maybe you are tired. Maybe you need to take a pause and just step back a little bit. So if this episode resonated at all with you, share it with someone who's quietly blaming herself right now. Because the truth is, sometimes the strongest move you make in midlife is rebuilding instead of forcing. I'll see you in the next video.